So pretty much what I'm going to try to show here is kind of like how the turn and mill turn kind of like interact with CAMWorks. So let's jump right into it. So I'm going to go ahead here and just open up SolidWorks, and just want to kind of like start out with show normal procedure for doing lathe work inside SolidWorks here. So I'm just going to go over and open up a new document here, and I get prompted to log into our EPDM product data management. What actually is great for can be great for manufacturing too, to kind of like keep track of things. I don't know if you ever tried to that there's a revision change and the manufacturing floor is not notified by it, then EPDM is one of the programs that can help with that. But I'm just going to go in and open up a blank inch template here. And inside SolidWorks here, I'm going to go ahead and just start a sketch on the front plane here. And I'm just going to create a revolve part. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a center line that we can kind of like revolve around. I'm just going to right click here and turn it into a center line, so then we can revolve around that. And then I'm just going to sketch up a part here, and I'm going to keep it pretty simple here just for the sake of what we're doing here. So I'm just going to go ahead and sketch something, maybe put a little slot into the part like this here, and let's just close the part off. So we got a part here we can revolve around, and actually we probably got to close it all up if we want to. And at this point here, I could add some dimensions to it, but normally it's a good thing. So let me just go ahead here, and this here is going to actually turn out to be some kind of a through hole. You guys can't see my screen. That's not good. Ha! Well, that's good. How about that? Now you can see my screen, I hope. Well, hey, let's just start over then. It could be a lot worse, right? Let's get rid of this. Let's start over again. So open up an empty document here. And again, I'm going to start up on the front plane. Create a center line. And turn that into a center line we can roll around. Go ahead here, do what I tried to sketch up simple yesterday. It was right before it was simple because you couldn't see it. I'm going to put a little slot into this part here and close that up there. So at this point here, I'm going to throw a couple of dimensions on it. So we're going to throw a dimension here. This is actually going to be a through hole here. So I'm going to put that in there. Maybe we just going to put some kind of a dimension on this part here. Make that maybe 3 inches in diameter. Everything in SolidWorks is kind of like relations, so we can actually go in and add relations just by holding down a control here, and I can actually make stuff like this column here. So it's very quickly to just, add dimensions in here. I'm going to, just for the sake, maybe make this one 1/2 inch wide and 1/4 inch deep. And we could actually in SolidWorks use a command like fully defined sketch just to add the remaining ones on here, that we then can go ahead and we could adjust the remaining dimensions. Just, it's okay to be lazy once in a while, right? With CAD, and just get these different dimensions in here. So just to straighten it up a little bit, and I think that's about as good as it's gonna get here. So we got a sketch that is fully defined now, and we can go ahead and we can revolve this one around here. And now we got somewhat of a simple revolve part for that could be done in a lathe, right? And we might want to go in and add a material on it here, depending on, and SolidWorks comes with a lot of different materials in here, so maybe, well, 316 maybe not be your favorite but to machine, but it's there. And we might also just add some fillers to it, right? So add some filler rounds here, and we could also add some chamfers on here. I'm just going to, on purpose here, I'm going to add a chamfer on the one side of this slot here, just to show you something in a little bit here. So pretty quickly here, we have something that could be considered a part. So let's go into the CAMWorks portion of things. So CAMWorks runs right inside SolidWorks. It's right integrated inside of there. It was the first one to do it. And the way we know that we have CAMWorks on is that we actually have 2 tabs over here. And then we got also a command manager up here. So CAMWorks is an add-on right inside SOLIDWORKS. So if you go into your normal add-ons inside SOLIDWORks, you will see CAMWorks is sitting right down here, just like where we got all the other add-ons in here. So I'm going to go ahead and select the machine. So I'm going to double click on the machine here, and I'm just going to select a turning machine I got in here. Now this is all coming out of an Access database that you can totally customize. You can add as many machines as you want to and stuff like that. Quickly, I'm just going to select that machine. And one thing I just want to show over here on this tab over here is the setup. So by default, CAMWorks actually try to find out where is our pickup point going to be. So it selected this area here. But you can actually also select like coordinate system. So if you're already familiar with SOLIDWORKS, you know the SOLIDWORKS coordinate system, you can use that. That is fully integrated on all the different, you can use that wherever you are. In this case here, we're just going to go with the automatic here. Click on that. And now if we go to we look at maybe the stock here, we can see that it gives us a boundary around the part. That's default. But actually the next one over here, you can actually use SOLIDWORKS sketches. So you can actually see that it's using to display the stock, that sketch we use to revolve around. This can be very powerful for like castings and stuff like that you can actually sketch things up and then you can use it as stock. We can also use what's called work in progress. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. And also we can use STLs. And in here too, we can select material. So this will be the feeds and speeds material library. And this is totally customizable. Again, comes with CAMWorks. It's pretty close from just getting right out of the box, but you can totally customize this here. So I'll select my 316 in here too. Now in regards to the stock, we can add stock here just by adjusting these different arrows here, so we can see we can add some material for us to hold on to and stuff like that, depending on what we really want in here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK here. And now we're actually ready to start applying some toolpath. Now there's different ways we can do stuff inside CAMWorks. We like to use the extract machinable features. So if you're already familiar with SOLIDWORKS, you maybe know FeatureWorks, that when you import a model that you can use that. And that actually is done by geometric. So we can actually use that to extract the machinable features. On top of that, when it comes to the turning in CAMWorks, we actually, if we go into the CAMWorks options, we actually in here, we have two different methods we can extract features out of. So there's a plane section and there's a revolve section. Now plane section is the most common for most turning programs. Basically what it does is it cuts a plane right through your part, and then it just kind of like analyzes the outline of that. But CAMWorks also got something called revolve. I'm just going to show you what really how cool that is. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that, and I'm going to hit extract machinable features. Now what CAMWorks does is analyzes the part, try to come up with what it could find. And the mentality with CAMWorks in this regard is that it's kind of like, hey, let's the ones and zeros inside the software see what it can find, and then you can always manipulate it further down. So it's not like if you're getting down this road that you cannot go back again. So just look at here what we have here. It found a face feature. That sounds good. It found the OD feature. It found that groove that we put in there, and it also found an ID, and then it automatically added a cutoff. Now if I go up here and hit generate operation plan, now it goes into this technology database. This is an Access database, and it can go in here and it will totally read through that database and see what's in there, and it can actually adjust all your tools, your depth of cut and stuff like that, so you can customize how you do things in your shop to the CAMWorks. So a lot of these repeat things we do with CAM kind of like is eliminated. Just look at it quick here. It found some face operation. There's a rough and there's a finish. It found turning the OD rough, finish the OD, and then it did that groove, and then it does a center drill, and then a cutoff. I'm just going to go ahead here and say, all right, let's just generate the toolpath, and we can now go in here and we can kind of like simulate and see what it found. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit it in here, and we will see here that it is doing, it first did the face off, and now it's doing the OD here. And you can see that it does this live as I'm spinning it around here. We can see how it's eliminating the material here. At any time I can stop it if I want to, and I can also go in and do like to next operation, so I kind of like it stops after after every operation. So in this case here, it's doing the rough, and then it's going to stop and wait for the next operation. What will be the finish of the outside here. So we can see it's going to come in here and do the finish. And next one's going to be, and we can kind of like see how it's highlighting it over here. So the next thing's going to be the groove thing. So let's go in and let it do the groove. And remember that I put that chamfer on the back side. You'll actually see that it's actually leaving some material in there for that. So when we're sending the finishing in here, that it actually, you know, have taken care of that little angle there. And the next thing it's going to do is it's going to come in, do a spot drill. Then it's going to do a drill. And then it can do the cutoff if this is the time to do the cutoff at this point. Many times with the cutoff, I just go in and I just suppress it. Maybe I don't want it right now. Suppress, if you're familiar with SolidWorks, we have that in here too. Right click and suppress. That's kind of nice in case that you change your mind later on. You can always unsuppress it. You can also in here just right click and you can delete it out of here. And actually one of the nice things about deleting is there's actually a recycle bin. What means that you can actually also restore it again. That's kind of nice if you ever delete the wrong toolpath, if you have ever done that. I've done that a couple of times. So that's kind of nice that you can kind of like go in here and you can restore things again. So fairly quickly with the feature recognition, you can go in here and you can quickly, you know, draw up your part and you can throw some toolpath on it. But before we get to the point of generating setup sheets and programs, let's just go in here to the SolidWorks Configuration Manager. If you're familiar with SolidWorks, you know the configurations is where we can make different variations of the same part. So if I wanted to change something with this part here, I will just go in SolidWorks here and I can do a Control-C, Control-V to copy this configuration here. So I'm going to double click and make that configuration active. And I'm also going to rename this one here. And I'm going to call this one here with tab. What I want to do is, in this configuration here, I'm going to create a little tab that's going to stick out in like 30 degrees and then as a variation of this part. Now realize that I have my CAMWorks toolbar up here, but if I go over and I hit the plane over here, you will see how it jumps right into the SolidWorks plane selection in here. So we are working with CAMWorks inside SolidWorks. You know, everything is right there. It's not like we're in another interface or something running something in the background. We're right in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and select my top plane here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn my temporary axis on so I can select that for my second reference, and I get a plane up in an angle here, and I'm just going to make it in like 30 degrees, and I'm just going to sketch a little slot on this part here just to show you what the revolve selection does. So I'm just going to do something there. I'm not fully defining it. And inside the boss extrude, we could select up to surface, and maybe we just add a little bit of material to that boss, so sticking up there. So here we got our second configuration, right, with a little boss sticking out here in 30 degrees. Now, an interesting thing is, if we go to the SolidWorks here, we have the two configurations. Now, as soon as I go over to the CAMWorks tab, CAMWorks is going to come up and yell at us because CAMWorks actually realized that there is more than one configurations, and CAMWorks comes up and says, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to add a configuration for CAMWorks to machine this, or do you just want to copy what you already have? So I'm just going to go for this instance here and say add a new configuration, what means that now we're also going to have configuration over on the CAMWorks side. Now over here I'm going to go on the new configuration on CAMWorks side and select that same turning machine because it's just another part. And now you will see over here on the CAMWorks feature tree that I got two different configurations in here, and that actually shows up with a name, right? So when I now go in on this case here and runs the extract machinable features, it's going to do it on this configuration with this tab on, and you will now see that it actually will treat that little step out there, and you will see that when it goes in and it's verifying this part here. I'll speed it up a little bit. You will actually see now that it's going to see it right here, and it's going to treat that little tab. And it's going to use a slotting tool for that. We could possibly change that. But now you will actually see that it took that into consideration. Another neat thing about working right inside SolidWorks is that we can use the intelligence of it having a solid model. So I can actually compare the SolidWorks model with this verified model here. And it shows up with a little chart over here. That blue means that there's still material, and red would mean that there's missing material, and green means that we are right on the mark. So you will see here that there's our little tab showing up there. So this is very neat when it comes to working with this kind of stuff here. Another thing I just want to show on this part here before we jump to the next one is also so CAMWorks found all this almost like, I don't know if it's called magic, but you know, it ran through and found all this. What if we want to add something to something like this? What if we wanted to add like a threading operation to a part like this? Well, being right in here, we can actually just go over and say that we want to insert a threading operation. So I'm just going to right click here and go in and say I want to add a threading operation. Now you'll see that the menus here are very much like working inside SolidWorks. So I'm just going to go down and say I want to add a new turn feature. And it is going to be an OD. In this case here, it's going to be a threading operation. So we're just going to go down and make it a threading operation. And now I can actually just go in and select this line right here and use that one as my threading operation. So now when I go ahead to green check mark, select it and go there. Now it actually jumps right into that threading operation in here with our different tools. Another neat thing is that you can actually see that our tool holders are visible when we're editing our parameters for our tool. So we can see our tool here. Okay, so we can quickly go in and see the different tools. Now I'm just going to hit OK to it here, and you will see that it's sitting right down here. Another neat thing about this is, just like in SolidWorks, I can drag and drop this. So I don't want the thread to be in the bottom. I want it right after I did the grooving tool, so I can just drag it up here. Now I'm just going to go ahead and process it, and we will see that it's actually going to do all the way over here. So let's just go in and double click and edit some of these parameters. So if we go in here, this is like most other lathe programs that we got all the different settings and stuff like that. We can go in and take a look at, you know, set all the different stuff like our pitch and all this stuff, depth of cut. Just for the case of this verification, I'm just going to make it at one pass, but probably wouldn't be feasible in the real world. But another thing I really like about this here is that we actually have a little backplot button we can hit here, and as soon as I do that, I'm actually backplotting right inside of the screen here. The neat thing about this is that in most other CAM products that I've used, you kind of like got to leave the operation manager to go to the backplot and then go back into it again. But you can see as soon as I hit the red X, we're right back into it again. So these small tabs up here will take us right there. So I might just change the length of this machining here to a half inch, and you will see again it's live, right? You know, when I go in here and if I go in and hit a preview, you will see that it becomes right there. It shows up, does the calculation right there. So with that generated there, let's take a look at it here. If we go in now and just see that threading operation there. So now it's going to go in. So you can kind of like see how it's fairly easy to add stuff in here on the fly, you know, so let CAMWorks find as much as it can, and then from that point on we could decide, you know, if we're going to add more operations to it. And we can see here that it does put in, you know, the thread there, and it also put in stuff like the lead in and stuff like that. So you can quickly see here that we can add this stuff in here. Now, this is just the turning part, and I got one more turning part I wanted to show you, and then we're going to go into some of the mill turn. I'm going to try to keep this about a half an hour, 40 minutes long or something like that. So with this part here done, we might want to go ahead and just do a setup sheet. So we can go in here and right click on operation and say generate a setup sheet. Now in CAMWorks you can use XML, and if you're not familiar with XML, it's almost like HTML. So you know, like website and stuff like that. The neat thing about this is that it's totally customizable, and you can literally put in anything you want inside these setup sheets here. Now this setup sheet is just a generic setup sheet, and you will see that it just comes up with geometric showing up here. Of course, you could have your company name, the material. I didn't switch material for the second configuration, so that's definitely something there. Date, time, you know, the machine. We even get some cycle times we can adjust in here, and then it actually gives us a picture of each operation. What can be nice if you're handing this off to somebody else that got to machine it, this at least will let them know what's going on each, you know, after each tool change, and you can see how it's showing up with time, feet and speeds and stuff like that, and it will show up through here. So that's the setup sheet. Now the next portion of course, would be to post-process this. Sending it through the post-processor, and we can select something like an NC code or something like that here, and we can process this through either by step or by playing it through here, and we can just quickly take a look at our output here. So here's our NC output, and the way we do it with post is we got thousands of available different lathe posts and mill turn posts and stuff like that. They can also be customized totally to whatever you need, and you can actually modify your post yourself if you want to. Another thing, just to quickly show here, if we go back into if we go into an operation in here for the roughing operation in here. Again, just like you saw with the lathe tool before, as soon as I go in here, I actually see the tool that is using for this here. We can of course go in here and we can change the step over and stuff like that. And what is neat about these things here is this is the stuff we can save back to this technology database. So the next time that we're running something that is similar to this, all these things will already have been changed. So we can do all that stuff in here. We can also do can, cycle, output and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things in here. You lead in, lead out. So one of the neat things about CAMWorks is that we can set all these things to your preference, and now whenever you start, you run the feature recognition, it will automatically put these lead in and lead out, whatever you prefer to put in there and stuff like that. So we can quickly go in here and we can make the changes, and you will see them right here. All right, let me show you another lathe part here. So I got another one I already have showing up here. Again, this is also just a revolve part, just a sketch inside SOLIDWORKS that is revolved around. No big science there. But one of the things I want to show you with this part here is if I go up and use the SOLIDWORKS section view, you will actually see that the part here got some internal stuff going on. Now again, working right inside SOLIDWORKS, I can actually work with this feature turned on with CAMWorks. CAMWorks don't care. They can work with this, so we can actually see what's going on. So if I go over here and I have my lathe already selected, I don't really care much about the material at this point. I am just going to go over and hit extract machinable features and let it find whatever it can find on this one here. So I'm just going to hit the green check mark. Let's see what it can find. So one of the things it does here, it finds a face feature in the front, an OD, and then a groove. So there's some grooves in here. And then with the ID is where I wanted to kind of like pay attention. So what you will see here is that it found it as a drill. Well, it might be good to drill this out, but we can definitely see that there's some other stuff going on in here. And it also found a groove inside of here. I'm just going to go ahead and process this. And it went through the technology database, found all these different tools and stuff like that. Hit the generate, and we will see now that we are ready to run a verification on this part. Now, so I like to look at it cut through in SOLIDWORKS. Inside of here, I can actually also just go ahead here and do a half through here, so I can kind of like see what's going on here. And we can see now we got our outside OD going in, we got the lathe in here, and then we're going to see a spot drill, now a drill, and then we're going to see that it did this groove in here. So it's clearly missing some stuff in here, but I kind of like that it put that half-inch drill in there, right? Now, one thing I might want it to do is actually drill all the way through. So to change that, I'm just going to go and double-click on the drilling operation. And in here on the feature options, I can just say add tip length, and now you will see that it's going to, go all the way through the part. If we go in and simulate it one more time, let me go into half, cut through, turn it down a little bit, and we will see here that it's going to go all the way through. All right, so this looks pretty good, except we're missing some stuff in the inside here, right? I do like, though, that it's cutting a hole through it first before I'm coming in with a boring brush. So I would like to keep that. Let me show you. If I go over to the CAMWorks feature tree over here, we had that ID drilling operation. Well, just like in SOLIDWORKS feature tree, if I'm holding down my control key and I drag this one down, I can actually make a copy of that drilling feature here. So I'm just going to drag that one back up and place it right underneath here. So I got my drill, and then I got this copy of it. Now this copy, if I right-click on it and say parameters, you will see in here that it picked by default strategy as a drill. Well, check this out. There is actually a bunch of default strategies in here for boring cycles, and you can actually create your own strategies and put in here in this Access database. So I'm just going to select this one here, 0.6, and I'm going to hit OK. And let's process that one. So I'm just going to right click on this one at this time and say generate operation plan, and you will now see that this boring operation are now inside of this operation tree, so we can generate those. And I don't want them in the end, I want them right after the drilled hole, so I'm just going to drag them up underneath the drilled hole there. So we got the drilled hole, and then we got the rough and the rough. So let's see what we found here. Without really done much, we are already, we're already flying here. We haven't been chaining anything. At this point, we're just kind of like rolling through here. So let me just show you here. It's going to go through drilling it, and here we see that it's going to do the inside there. Now, it looked all cool as we were flying through it, but maybe we just want to take one more closer look at it, and maybe we want to turn on something like a collision detection. Because one of the neat things, again, not only can we compare with our solid model, but we can actually also use true collision. So I'm just going to pause it on for the tool holder here, and let it run through it again. And you will see that when it comes in and does the boring bar, that we actually get a CAMWorks alarm here, and that there's something going on here with the boring bar that it's going to go in and hit. I'm just going to hit OK to the box here, and you will actually see that it does kind of like show up with red in here where it's hitting. So we definitely know we got an issue here that we got to resolve. So again, very neat that we are right inside SolidWorks. We can use the solid model to also do stuff like collision detection. Now to fix this, what do we want to do? Well, we can go into the boring bar, and we maybe want to go in here, and we could replace it with another boring bar in here. I'm going to show that in a little bit. We maybe also just know that we just need to tweak some of the values in here. So this one right now is set up to a 6 diameter. Maybe I know that in the real world it's actually only 450. And you can see in here how you can set how everything gets approached. So I'm just going to let it process through there, and maybe we know the boring bar is the same number in here. So let's change that to 450, and let's run that through there with the collision detection still on. Go down to a half and let it run through here. And we can see that now we didn't get the collision detection, so we now know that we're good with this here. Again, we could maybe go in here and compare it and see that we don't have any blue, we don't have any red, so this part might be finished here. Also, just to show you in here, if I go back into the boring bar, we can of course also in here control the can cycles and the lead in and the step over and how much to leave an allowance and all that stuff. It's right in here. All right, next part I want to show you is, well, it's actually a mill turn part. When I open this part up here, you will see that CAMWorks actually throws a warning at me here, because you will see over here this is an imported model. Well, CAMWorks don't really care. As long as it's a solid, then it's happy. It would actually also machine surfaces and sketch geometry too if we want to. I'm just in this case here just going to say no to this. Now, as you can see here, the coloring of this part looks a little weird. Well, that's actually because CAMWorks works right inside SolidWorks, so we got the real view option. So let me just change the background to something else, and you will see that as we're working, we have the reflection and everything on this part here. So this part actually needs a little bit of mill turn added into it here, where it has a little face on it here. So what I'm going to do with this part is I'm going to go over to our CAMWorks features tree here, and we might want to go into the stock manager here, and maybe we want to add some more stock so we have something to hold on to. So I'm just going to add some length to it here. Maybe it's going to be 12 inches. We can of course type that in here. We can place it too, depending on where it's going to be. So if we're adding, how much material do we have there on the nose there, we can adjust that. Of course, I can also do it on the diameter. We can actually add math in here, so I could say like 1/32 if I want to, and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and place that. And you will see that I've already got the mill turn selected. That's right in the same list where we selected the turning machine, so there's the mill turn. So kind of like the same process as before. I'm going to go ahead here and hit extract machinable features on this part here, and just let it find whatever it can find, and then we can work with it here. Now, one of the things I want to show you on this part is what happens when the database is not totally set up, and does everything automatically. Because when you're starting out with CAMWorks, the database is already there. And most people are more than happy to start out with a database you know, it's pretty close to whatever you need. But as you're going along, you might find certain things where things needs to be tweaked. So we can see here that it found a lot of different operations in here, a lot of turning operations. It did find that there should be a mill setup for this part here, but it couldn't figure that one out. So we gotta actually have to insert this one manually. But what I want to pay attention on is this through hole that goes through the center of the part. Now, if you're not familiar with that in SolidWorks, we can just hit the adds, and SolidWorks will actually show us the diameter. So we can see that it's a little bit more than 2 inches. But CAMWorks noticed this hole because it placed it over here with a center drill, a drill, and another drill. But the database is not set up for handling this hole, and I did this on purpose just to kind of like show what happens when the database is not recognizing things 100%. So it knows because of the size of the hole that it's going to insert 2 drilling operation and of course a center drill first. But you can see how the center drill here is pink because it actually haven't set the depth of it, so it's not going to put it in there until we change the depth on it. So let me just change the center drill. So I'm going to double click here. And first of all, this center drill here is very small. It is, I'm going to go into the tool crib here. You will see that it's a number 0. I don't want that. So I'm actually just going to click on it and I'm going to replace it. And maybe I want to replace it with like something like a number 4 or something like that. So I'm just going to click on that and hit OK. And now I actually replaced it with that number 4 there. Now again, in the screen, we will get a preview of it so we can see it. I also going to go over here to the feature up here and put in a depth. And I don't know what you normally do your center drill. I'm going to leave it, you know, let it drill in 100,000s. And now you will see that after putting the depth in, I can actually now generate it so it becomes, you know, an operation that we can actually put in there. Now for the drill, again, CAMWorks noticed that it needed to drill some holes, but it didn't pick the right size drill. I mean, the 6,000th drill is probably not appropriate for this here. Maybe I want to pre-drill with something like a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to double click on that drill, and I'm going to go ahead and change that one. So I'm going to go over to the tool, I'm going to go to the tool crib, and I'm just in this case going to say add. Now, by default, CAMWorks comes up with a filter. This is because there is a lot of tools in here by default. And you can add all your own tools. You can make customized tools and stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and select the drill. And by default, I'm just going to have it searched by diameter. So now you can see all the drills that is inside of CAMWorks in here. So there's a fairly amount of different drills in here. And of course, I could filter it out by, as you can see over here, by diameter or material or hole destination and all kinds of stuff. For the diameter here, I'm just going to double click up on top here, and I'm going to go down and just find a 1/2 inch drill. A 1/2 inch drill. Let's further down. Looked in the wrong column. So I'm just going to go in here and select this 1/2 inch drill, hit OK. And if I go over here and sort through here, we will see our 1/2 inch jobber drill show up here. I'm going to hit select and place that one there. Now, as I'm going in now, we can see that this drill show up, and we can see that that's not going to be able to drill all the way through. This is the point where we could decide to maybe add another drill. I can also control all the lengths and everything in here. So I mean, I could make it longer if I wanted to for the case of this here. I'm just going to go ahead and select this drill here. For the second drill, I'm going to go bigger, of course, maybe 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go and double click on that one, go into the tool crib, and I'm going to say add a drill. Again, I'm going to select the drill and the diameter here, hit OK. And now, again, I can flip it the other way. So the biggest drill that is inside the tool library as default is 2.5 inches in diameter. But of course, like I said, you can add all your own stuff like that. So I'm just going to select this 1.5 inch drill here. And we're going to use that one. Select that one. And we can see that that one probably is pretty close to making it through the part. We could, again, go in here and we could change, you know, the effective length here. Maybe it's 12 or something like that, and we will be able to drill through the part and stuff like that. We could also do stuff like add the tip length so it actually drills all the way through like we did with the other part. So with that here, let me just go ahead and simulate this and see what we got now. So I'm just going to let it go ahead here, and it's just going to, oh, I had my collision detection on for my tool holder. So it looks like that I got a little bit of an issue there. It's going to hit there. So that's definitely something I should address like that. For this case, I'm just going to ignore it. Well, that's never, of course, good, but just for the sake of this, let it do the different slots in here. and then we're going to drill the hole through here, and we now get our part finished through here, drilled all the way through like that there. So there's our part here. Now this part here, like we saw before, we also had a little thing about doing some mill turn on this part here, or live tooling, whatever you want to call it. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go over here to my CAMWorks feature tree. I'm going to click on this mill part setup. Now you see on this little arrow here, that's the direction it's going to go in with the Z-axis. So this is clearly not the right way. So here's a typical example on where we hit the feature recognition up here. CAMWorks analyzed the model. It found, you know, most of the turning features. We had to adjust a couple of drills. Now we're ready for the mill, and the way that it's looking at it is not the way we want to machine it. So I'm just going to right click and delete this one like that, and then I'm going to insert my own. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to right click up here. I'm going to say insert mill part setup, and again the menus are very much like working inside SolidWorks. I'm just going to select on this face, and you will see that the arrow points down. That's the mill part setup I want. So now I got that mill part set up, and I'm ready to now inserting this milling operation in our mill turn. So I right click, I'm going to insert this as a 2.5 axis feature, and this is going to be, I've hit the little type here, I'm going to hit the slot, and again I don't chain anything, I'm just selecting this flat face. That's it. I'm going to hit next, and I can control some kind of a depth from where it's going to start at. Maybe 200,000 works here, and I'm not even going to edit anything, I'm just going to say finish. Now at this point here, it inserted that slot, and I can go ahead and say generate operation plan, jumps over to our operation tree, and now we got our mill part set up down here with the roughing and the contour. So I'm going to generate that, and that's it. Now we actually got this added in here. So if we go back in here and we run through here, we can stop it. We could actually say for the next setup, so it stops before the mill part, so we don't run through that. And it's going to stop here, and now we can go in and we can see that it's going to come in with an end mill here and machine that little slot and T-slot in there, and it's going to come in with a finished cut there. So as you can see here, it's very easy to kind of like, you know, adding stuff like that to it. We can do a quick compare here and look at it. Now another thing with this part here is that there is actually like what looks like a trumpet on the inside of this part that that we got to work on here. On the inside of this part. So there's going to be a second turn setup. Now, what I really like though is I like to use what I've already machined as my stock for my next operation. So, you know, I can really see what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to hit this save, and I'm going to save it out as a STL file. So I'm just going to save it here. And now, when I go to insert another setup, because I got this trumpet opening here, that's going to be our second lathe setup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my feature tree over here. Now I'm going to right click and say insert a turn setup instead of a mill setup. And remember, by default before, CAMWorks trying to find out what direction is what. I'm just going to hit reverse here. I'm going to keep the same 0. Click on that, and now I got a turn setup. So all I want to do is just this trumpet down at the end. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say insert a turning feature. Now this here is going to be an ID feature, right? And it's not going to be a drilling, but it's going to be a course. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to select the sketch in here, the sketch line in here. And that's really it. So now we got that turning feature in there. I can go ahead and generate that. And now it would automatically go through the technology database, pull out the center drill, the drills, and the boring operations to do this. Now, my stock, I'm now going to go in and change the stock to that STL we just saved out. So I'm going to click on the STL file. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to find it. I just saved it on my desktop somewhere. Right there. So I'm going to use that. So now when I go in here to create this, we will now see that that is our first operation, right? So now I can actually go in here and I can go in and I will drill, and then it will come in here and do the boring operation for that second setup here. I actually probably also wanted to add something like a facing operation, right? Because I added that extra stock in there, so we maybe should have done that. So I can just go in, again I can right click in here, and I can say I want to insert a turning operation. It's going to be a facing operation, and I'm just going to create a new facing operation in there. and I can now go down and just select this little line here, because that's really what we gotta do. And now I'm actually inserting that facing operation in here. So that's gonna come in here. I'm just gonna leave it whatever it comes out with. Maybe I want, so now that facing operation is showing down here. And now maybe I want to just add that one. Maybe I want to do that one before I do the center drill, or after, depending on how you want to do it. Let's go ahead and simulate it. Oops, I'm going to do just that second operation. Simulate that through there. And now we will see that it's dusting that. And I might have to adjust my step over, it looks like, or something. I get some nice rings out there. But the point is that, you can see how easy it is to really add stuff in like that. All right, we're getting up on 40 minutes. I just wanted to show one more part here quickly here. So this is all, fairly easy with the mill turn. I got another mill turn demo part here. But what I wanted to do with this part was I just quickly wanted to insert the different lathe operation manually. So, I mean, it's all great that we can do the extract machine build feature, and it does find, 80%, 90% of the stuff. It's a nice way to kind of like get 5 steps down the road. But, sometimes we got to go in and do things manually, and I just want to kind of like do that on this part quickly, just to kind of like show that, that is not, it's not like you are locked in to do everything automatically. So I'm just going to go in here quickly, and I'm just going to go in, I'm going to change this to a mill turn. I got a Kuma in here. I'm going to select that one. And I'm going to insert a turning setup. So I'm just going to right click, say insert turn setup. And I'm okay with the direction of everything. I'm going to right click and say that I want to insert a turning feature. And in this case here, I'm just going to use that plane profile we talked about before. And I'm just going to, again, with the Windows heads up, I can still move around. Though that I'm working inside of a CAMWorks turning feature, all these different buttons and stuff like that inside SOLIDWORKS works. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm just going to make a window around this thing here. And I'm just going to say okay to that. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have selected the bottom line there. Okay, so now I got this OD feature. Generate that, and we will see that it already found some different operations in here. I think I selected more than I really wanted here, but let's just take a look at it. I think I made my window a little bit too big, so it's going to do the outside there. Yeah, I didn't want it. I wanted to get the step in there. So that happens, right, that you're selecting the wrong things. Let me just go in here and say that we want to edit definition. We're back in here again, and let me just reselect what I selected. So now you can see how easy or how difficult it is to if you pick the wrong stuff to do it over again. So let's see here. I want to get this one here too in there. Let's try this. That looks like more like what I wanted, I think. So as you can see here, getting in and out of reselecting stuff. Though that we're not really chaining anything, we can, but with just window selecting, we can quickly go in here and make the adjustments here. So here I got my turning operation for this part here. I might want to add something like a chock. We can add chocks in here too. So I might just want to get my chock in here, and I'm just going to go in here in the window and select it. So I can just pick it right out of the graphics window here where it's located. And now we should see that we now got a chock in here that we can now see when we go in and do this part here. So very easy to just manually adding the turning operations too. Now for the milling operation, I'm going to go in here and select this top face here. So I'm going to go in and say that I want to add a milling setup, and I'm just going to select on that top face right there. And just by selecting the face, it knows that that's going to be the direction it's going to go in on this part here. And I'll go ahead and accept that. On this here, I'm going to go in and insert a 2.5 axis feature. And I'm going to actually select a face operation for this one, right? Because that's kind of like what it is. So I'm just going to select the face again and go ahead next. And automatically here, I'm just going to say don't use the stock extent. So it's just only machining what we have in here. Now by default, a facing operation inside CAMWorks will be with an 1.5-inch face mill. What you will see is a little bit big for our operation here, right? So that's maybe not what I want. Well, again, we can fairly quickly go in here and add another tool. So just by going in, instead of hitting a face mill, I'm going to hit a flat end mill. And maybe I think that a 1/4 inch might work a little bit better for this case. So I'm going to select that 1/4 inch end mill, select it here. And now we got a 1/4 inch end mill that might work a little bit better here. Now another thing is the direction it goes in. I might want it to go the other way. This kind of stuff is very easy to change in here. I can just change the cut angle till 90, and now you will see that that it now will go in the 90 degrees instead. Now here's another very neat thing. Right now it starts up from the top of the stock, but check this out. We actually have, and they are working on this more and more, integrating this into CAMWorks. This is pretty neat. We can actually choose for this operation to look at work in progress. What that means is that this toolpath for this facing operation, we can actually go in here and say, well, we've already turned this part, so I want you to use that. And by clicking this here, it now knows that, you know, we've already run that lathe operation, and it will take that into consideration about, you know, the depth of cut. So you can really eliminate a lot of like your air cutting and stuff like that by using some of these features here. So now we'll see it's going to do the lathe operation, and then it's going to come in and face that off there with the mill tool. Also, something like adding a drilling operation in here is fairly simple. I right click, insert a turning feature, or a mill feature, 2.5 axis feature. I select the hole, and I'm just going to select that edge of this hole. And by doing that automatically, CAMWorks actually goes in and it looks at the hole, and it will actually put in the drill that fits that hole, the smaller size closest to it. So it is a 250, and it did pick a 250. So if it had a smaller drill, if it was like, if the hole was 251 and the closest on the smaller size was 250, that was the hole it would put in there. So you can see that you can pretty quickly add these different operations in here. The last thing I just wanted to show is the wrap feature here, because maybe you guys looked at that one. So again, I'm going to go in, I'm going to go to my feature tree, and I'm going to insert another mill part setup by right clicking, and I'm just going to select this top plane here and flip the direction down there, and on this mill part setup I'm going to right click and say insert wrap feature. Now again, I'm just going to select that face. Now I select that face, and it looks, the green one shows where am I going to start from. So I'm just going to go over here and select the end condition. I'm just going to select this vertex right out of the graphic screen, and now it knows where that material is. And I can go ahead and hit the green check mark, and we got a wrap pocket here. I can generate it. It's going to go through the technology database, and now you will see that it put that wrap feature in there. And let me just generate the face mill too. So now if we go in now and we simulate this part, we will see that we also got first the turning operation, then we do the facing operation with the added drill, and then we are going to do this wrap feature at the end here. And again, all this stuff can be controlled through the technology database. So I hope that you kind of like, I know I ran a little bit longer than I was planning on. I hope that this kind of like showed you how really integrated it is working with SolidWorks. We're right inside the same interface. We got all the different features sitting right up here, and you can kind of like see how we quickly can analyze inside SolidWorks, apply that knowledge to CAMWorks, and with this technology database that I didn't go into in this webinar, but we can really go in here and we can customize everything through this technology database. It is an Access database that you can totally customize to whatever you guys need. So I hope that you find this little webinar here helpful to kind of like see some of the turn and the mill turn stuff. My email address is right here, lars@catdimensions.com. Definitely more than welcome to send me any email or call one of our offices, and we can definitely answer some of your questions in regards to how this whole concept, and we can maybe, you know, if you want to see more stuff. So I hope you guys all found this helpful, and I will hopefully talk to you guys soon. Thank you.